Nathan Willard, writer-director of Once Upon a Time in the Apocalypse, and this video is about writing a screenplay for a low budget, and specifically a micro-budget movie. Now I'm going to make another video about screenplay structure and look at the structure of Once Upon a Time in the Apocalypse and how specifically the mini-movie method, which I used to write Once Upon a Time in the Apocalypse, fits onto the final structure of the film. But this video is about what you should think about before you even start writing a screenplay. What kind of screenplay should you write? Before you write a thing, you should think about what's going to sell. What will people actually watch? What will people invest their time and money into? What kind of movie would a good actor actually want to be in? We see this all the time, even with A-list actors, who can make tens of millions of dollars for some action movie, but they care enough about acting to be in low-budget movies because there's something about that movie that is interesting to them and excites them. And then think about what can you actually accomplish. What are the strengths and the weaknesses of your actual resources, the people, the team, the place where you're at, what kind of props do you have, what are your skills, what are the skills of other people around you. If you don't have much money, what can you make on a low budget that is relatively good? Okay, it may not be the best possible perfect thing if you had unlimited budget, but it's actually pretty good for the budget, and people would actually be amazed at how little it actually cost. Now there are two basic types of film. There's high concept films and low concept or character driven films. High concept films are plot driven. They're all about the big idea, which can be succinctly stated. It's easy to pitch, and it gets movie executives excited because they can just think, wow, this is going to be so easy to make. We just plug in some stars and hire a director. It doesn't really matter who they are. And this is a for sure hit. So Godzilla, that's a high concept film. The Matrix certainly was a high concept film to begin with, and that's definitely how it got made. Although that one's a little more complex. Some of the things we might think of as high concept are actually character driven. For example, the Marvel movies. The Marvel movies are actually character driven movies. They're really not high concept at all. Character driven movies, which some people would call low concept movies, are about the characters. The plot is really incidental. It's about those characters, and you could plug those characters into any plot, but what we really care about is the characters and seeing them just interact and go through different situations. The situations themselves are just an excuse to spend some time with those characters. So maybe that'll help you understand why I would say that Marvel movies are actually character-driven stories. Mad Max, the original Mad Max, and certainly the next two Mad Maxes after that were character-driven stories. It was all about Mad Max and that character in different situations. The fourth Mad Max movie, I would actually say, is a high-concept movie. Mad Max is incidental to that movie. You could have put any other character and named him anything else you wanted to, that movie would still be fantastic. It'd be an amazing post-apocalyptic action film. It doesn't need to be a Mad Max film. It's not character driven. Now, we got a good character out of it, which was Furiosa, and now they're making a new movie about Furiosa, and that's probably going to be a little more character driven. Okay, this is not actually a hard and fast line, and hopefully you're seeing that. One of the things people say about character-driven movies is that they're dependent upon execution. And from a executive point of view and a movie producer point of view, that's not necessarily a great thing, because they want something that they just look at the screenplay and go, this is an amazing screenplay. We just need to get a couple stars. It doesn't really matter who the stars are. We'll just get a director for hire. It doesn't really matter who the director is. This is going to be a hit because the concept is so amazing and really important. The concept is easy to sell. It's easy to sell to the executives, and therefore, of course, it's going to be easy to sell to the public. We don't need an established intellectual property. And what our established intellectual property is really all about? The characters. We don't need known characters. We don't need a known world. This concept is so amazing, it's going to establish a whole new world. It's going to establish a new set of characters because people are going to be so interested simply by the concept. Well, of course, it still matters that you actually have to make a good movie. It still is dependent upon execution, which brings me to The Matrix. So The Matrix was the first Western or Hollywood movie that really showcased Hong Kong action, both just the style, the visual style, and then the actual, action, the fight scenes and wire work, stuff like that. Now, I like the Wachowskis, and they certainly did bring something to The Matrix that was their own, but Yuen Wu-ping, I think, is really responsible for that first Matrix being so good. He went and worked on Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill. So that may be why those have such great action sequences. It may not all be Quentin Tarantino's genius. The point is that no matter how good a concept is, it really does matter who's involved in that project to make it as good as it possibly can be. Now, if you're a screenwriter, you're trying to sell a spec script, or at least trying to get your foot in the door somewhere, write a high concept screenplay. But there should be some character-driven stuff in there. These things don't actually have to be opposed to each other. In the end, people like character-driven stories. The concept, it gets people's attention, but the characters are what people really care about. So if you're a writer or director or producer of a low-budget or micro-budget movie, you have to think about both of these things. The concept is what's going to get people's attention and make them interested in your movie and make them want to watch your movie. Well-developed characters are going to make them love your movie. In the end, as a writer and director, and if you're trying to establish yourself and build a career, you want to show that you can execute something, okay? So write something that allows you to show off your skills. So if you're really good at practical effects, write a movie that's going to have a lot of practical effects. If you are capable of doing good CGI, write a movie with some CGI effects. If you're a martial arts expert, or you have access to a martial arts expert, or anybody who can do stunts, write a movie with some stunts in it, okay? I mean, showcase the talent, showcase the environment, showcase the stuff, whatever it is, whatever you have, figure out a way to utilize the things that you have to make the best possible story. Don't try to write something that you can't actually execute. Write something that you can execute, and when you execute it, it will show off your skill, and then people go, hey, maybe I should hire that person. Maybe I should give that person some money to make their next film. That's not why I'm making this video. But anyways, there's a reason I didn't make a futuristic sci-fi movie that required a lot of CGI and some really amazing props and set design and all that kind of stuff. Because, well, not only did I not know the people who could do that stuff at the level that was required, at least, also that cost a lot of money. So instead, I made a movie that was a post-apocalyptic, and everybody's just basically living out in the woods, and there's no fancy tech, and it's pretty simple. Because I'm focused on the characters and the story, I don't really care that much about the sets and the props. And special effects. That's not what I'm concerned about. That's not what I'm focused on in this movie. Now, another thing you should consider before you start writing your screenplay is the genre. Okay. Now, especially for a low-budget movie, it's important that you're going to be able to find an audience. And with genre, you already have a niche audience who likes these movies, and with a lot of genre films, they don't care who the stars are, they don't care who the directors are. They just like those kinds of movies, and they're always looking for more of those kinds of movies. So that makes it a whole lot easier to sell your movie. That makes it a whole lot easier to get people interested in your movie, to get their attention. So if you're making a low-budget movie, you should probably pick a genre that's easy to sell and that people want to see. Now, horror would be the prime example of this. Post-apocalyptic is another example of a genre like this. Zombie movies are simply post-apocalyptic horror movies. I could have made this more of a horror movie, and well, that would have made it easier to sell it. I made it a post-apocalyptic Western. I could have made it a post-apocalyptic Western horror. I don't know, whatever. I just didn't do it. Westerns are a genre that there are still a lot of people who like Westerns, but not enough that Hollywood is making big budget Westerns, at least not very often. And so, again, people who like Westerns are usually willing to watch Westerns that are on the low budget side. But why did I not make this just a period Western? Because that's more expensive, and I could not do it well. Just like with a futuristic sci-fi movie, if I make it a period piece, that's going to cost a lot more money for set design and props and all that kind of stuff, and in the end, for me, it does not matter, because what I really care about is not the props or the sets or the clothing. It's the characters and the situation that they're in. And a post-apocalyptic setting is pretty much the same as a Western setting. You have people who are trying to be good and trying to live in society, but yet society is breaking down. In a post-apocalyptic or in a Western, it's not quite built up. There's very little law, or there's no law, and you have bad people around who nobody's there to stop them, and so the good people have to figure out how to survive in that situation. How do they respond? Do they fight back? All that kind of stuff. That's what's interesting to me. I can explore that in a post-apocalyptic movie. I don't need to make a period piece Western. You know, it helps that I happen to I like post-apocalyptic movies. I love Westerns. I also love samurai movies, which are really just Japanese Westerns. I like these kinds of movies more than that. I live in an area where it was easy to make that kind of movie. A lot of post-apocalyptic movies occur in more of a desert kind of space, but we have lots of wilderness around us, and I thought it would be a different and interesting place to set a post-apocalyptic movie. All we got to do is get out in nature, and it's going to make our movie look 10 times better just because we're in this incredible area. And I happen to know people who had huge ranches, an area where we could shoot, and we'd be able to carry weapons and stuff, and not be scaring people or creeping anybody out, not get the police called on us. We have people who know how to handle these weapons and to be safe with these weapons. I had a person who not only knew how to ride a horse, but who was into mounted archery. And I was like, for sure, I'm going to figure out how to get her into this movie. And I'm in an area where there's a college that has a good theater program. So even if every single person in the movie wasn't necessarily a professional actor like myself, I knew I'd have some really exceptional actors who could carry the story. Myself, even though I don't consider myself an actor, I put myself in the movie because I knew I could play this part because I wrote it, and I knew I could write it for what I could accomplish. Also, with the young girl in the film, that wasn't something I just wanted to ask some stranger to do. My daughter wanted to do that, and so I was going to have her be in the film, and therefore I was going to play the father, so that it's going to be a whole lot easier for her to play that role if I, her actual father, am playing that role, playing her father in the film. And then the boy in the movie is also my son. So part of the reason I put myself in the movie is, as Ed Burns says, you know that you're going to show up. Use the resources that you have at your disposal. To sum up, what kind of movie should you make? Well, first of all, a movie that can be sold. People actually want to watch it. People would pay money to see it. And in order to do that, it's got to have something that gets people's attention. It should have a good concept, a good idea that is easy to tell people about, easy to sum up, easy to pitch, easy to put on a poster, okay? That doesn't mean it has to be nothing more than that, but it should have that. Having it be a specific genre is going to help with that. But that's just your starting point. People care about characters. If you don't happen to have Meryl Streep and Daniel Day-Lewis as friends, don't write a story that requires that level of acting. Look around at what you have available that you're not going to have to spend money on, or not going to have to spend a whole lot of money on. That will help you make a low-budget movie that is actually, hopefully pretty good. Okay, well, that's it for now. Like and subscribe, and there are going to be more videos about making low-budget, micro-budget movies coming your way. Thanks.